A lot can happen in a week. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Jessica Brown, co-director of Station Theater, Charles Kuffner, who writes the Off the Cuff political blog, and Ernie Manous, co-host of Hello Houston, weekdays from 11 to 1 here on News 88.7. Jessica, Charles, Ernie, welcome to Houston Matters.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Greg.
Panel, Monday's all-female celebrity-infused Blue Origin flight was marketed by the Jeff Bezos-owned space tourism company as historic. It was received differently by much of the public. The 11-minute flight up 62 miles and right back down in West Texas conducted no research, but did what it set out to do, garner publicity. Not all of it positive, mind you. A lot of criticism on the old socials centered on singer Katy Perry kissing the ground after landing, a move that could be seen as a bit more tone-deaf than maybe she intended, considering astronauts recently landing back on Earth were actually in space for 8 months. Some critics also noted how money spent on the flight could have been spent most anywhere else, and how calling it an historic crew because they were all women was, as one commenter put it, more embarrassing than empowering. CBS's Gayle King, one of the participants, challenged the backlash, in particular finding characterizations of the flight as a ride as sexist and irritating. A celebrity-studded all-female Blue Origin 11-minute flight gets attention, but not necessarily the kind those involved wanted. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Jessica Brown.
I had a feeling we were going to start with me, the one female on the panel. I love it. I think that it depends on how you focus on it, because I think that the celebrity aspect of it is not necessarily the most interesting part of it. You know, when you look at some of the folks that were on the crew, you've got Amanda Wen on there, who I actually saw somewhere recently. I'm going to guess it's probably TikTok, knowing me, that, you know, she originally set out to be an astronaut, but she had a situation where she was sexually assaulted, and so she went on to start a nonprofit that supports sexual assault victims and makes sure that their rape kits are saved. And so, you know, she put her career on hold to be able to do this thing to support women. And now she's getting to go up into space. And I think that's really the fascinating story, because there are some people who legitimately, it's amazing that they got to go. I agree that it's a bit tone deaf, that, you know, we fall and kiss the ground whenever we land. But, you know, just from my own experience doing things at Astroworld, like whichever the one was that went straight up and down, I did the same thing, because okay. I'm not into this like go straight up and come back down thing. You know, I think that it's kind of a little bit of both. I'm very excited for the people that got to experience something that they really, really, truly dreamed of. But maybe let's make it a little bit less dramatic.
Okay, good, bad, or ugly? Charles Kuffner.
First of all, I want to push back on the notion that any of these women were crew. They didn't do anything in the execution or of the flight. They were passengers. Mm-hmm. I don't want to over-dramatize anything here, because there's already been enough of that. And, you know, if we accept that they're just passengers, and I agree with Jessica that some of them were cool to have on this, why not have more people like that? I mean, what exactly other than publicity is Katy Perry bringing to this?
She did sing "What a Wonderful World" while they were
and you know, I'm not, this thought isn't original to me, but you wonder if she sang it as Katy Perry or if she sang it in her imitation of Louis Armstrong, which just really makes it that much more horrifying to consider.
Based on the audio, I think it's not clear.
Yeah. It's hard to argue with the idea that there's so many other ways that you could bring attention to space travel. You could bring attention to women in STEM than this particular stunt. I mean, they went up, they came down. These women got a view of the Earth, which I genuinely understand is, you know, enthralling and possibly perspective changing. Great. I believe Gayle King was saying, well, one of her criticisms, well, have you been to space? Well, no, Gayle, none of us can afford it. That's part of the problem here. I kind of hope that Blue Origin succeeds as a company so that we can have an alternative to SpaceX, which, you know, sucks up a ton of government money and just gives Elon Musk more power. Not that I want to give Jeff Bezos more power, but I'm happy, you know, if he takes some of it away from Elon, that's at least a bit of a win. I would like for there to be more competition for this, given that NASA is only doing so much of it themselves. It would be better if NASA did all of it, but that's not the world we live in. But I don't see how this advances any of their goals. They've done this before. They just had a different crew this time, a crew that attracted attention. Ultimately, I don't see the point.
Okay, good, bad, or ugly, Ernie Manous.
I would have to give a soft good, because I think the problem lies within the way they presented it. It was basically a really cool tourist trip up into space with some very qualified and some very successful individuals getting this opportunity to share, which they are going to bring back now to their followers, to their viewers and listeners, about how wonderful it is to understand that space is out there and we need to pay attention to it and look at it and learn from it. Selling it as this benchmark in astro studies and space science, okay, maybe a bit of a reach there. While it happened, I was getting ready to come into the studio. So I got in and took a shower. I have a TV in the bathroom. And it took me the same amount of time to take my shower as they went up and came back down. I got out of the shower, they were back already. And so I thought, well, at least they used their 10 minutes better than I used my 10 minutes. So all said and done, it's great. I know Katy Perry sang. I heard them say, oh, hold on, Katy Perry singing. I heard a muffled couple words, a couple bum, bum, bum. I thought, did she bring a boombox with her? What is going on? A beatbox up there? I don't know. Good for them. I'm happy they had that experience. Same way I felt when William Shatner did it. Good for him. I felt the Shatner connection felt a little more, I don't know if authentic is the right word. I could see why we all went along for that journey. Gayle King and Katy Perry doing it, I don't see the same heart swell of, wow, that's kind of cool. That's where I sit at. So a soft good.
Panel, the long debated but never realized Houston to Dallas high-speed rail project suffered yet another blow Monday when the Federal Department of Transportation announced the termination of a planning grant for Amtrak that had just been awarded 7 months prior. The Transportation Department, the Federal Railroad Administration, and Amtrak all agreed to end the grant that was designed to help move the project forward. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the project is a waste of taxpayer funds and a distraction for Amtrak, the U.S. National Passenger Railroad Company. Duffy argues the Texas Central Railway project was proposed as a private venture and that if the private sector believes this project is feasible, they should pay for it. As Houston Public Media's Adam Zuvanich reported Monday, Texas Central struggled to raise money necessary to get the project going and has also faced pushback from rural landowners along the proposed route. The Houston to Dallas bullet train project's slim prospects just got slimmer. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Charles?
Let me push back just a little bit on the premise of the question. I saw a number of different news reports, and some of them included this quote, and others did not. So, this is from the Fort Worth report. Kleinhens Capital Partners, Inc. of Fort Worth, the lead investor in Texas Central, said it was, quote, proud to have stepped in as the private sector sponsor of the Texas high-speed rail, and today's announcement is good news for the overall project. We agree with Secretary Duffy that this project should be led by the private sector, and we'll be proud to take it forward. This project is shovel-ready and will create significant new jobs and economic growth for Texas. So, if you are, an executive in Kleinhens Capital Partners, Inc. of Fort Worth, it's good. I don't know if I believe them, but, after all this time, I'm kind of conditioned to expect bad things to happen to this because literally every 6 months or whatever, I see a news report saying that they're hoping to achieve some milestone that I thought they had achieved a year ago. At this point, I probably could have walked back and forth to Dallas any number of times, and I would love for this thing to exist. I would also love for, the university's light rail line to exist. But I feel like some kind of rail project Sisyphus here in that we will never get there. It could be approved by voters. Funds could be appropriated by Congress. It doesn't matter.
If there's a boulder in the way of the train and it has to push it up a hill to get us to Dallas in less than 90 minutes, then I think they're doing it wrong.
Fortunately, there aren't any hills between here and Dallas, but I get your point.
You got to love a good Sisyphus reference. Good, bad, or ugly, Ernie?
I first challenged the idea there are no hills between here and Dallas because I did the AIDS ride from Houston to Dallas on my bicycle, and that last day there was lots of hilly things we had to go through. But anyway, I digress. The train project, I always thought I wasn't in favor of it until recently when I started thinking about it more. And I thought, what a great idea. 90 minutes here to there. I like the idea of it. I know that wasn't necessarily your question. So then I look at the funding issue. And if I'm not mistaken, it was like $64 million for what was basically still another feasibility study on it. It's like, how long do you have to look at this and see if it's going to either do it or don't do it, So I kind of am happy we're not putting whatever amount of millions of dollars behind this to still just be talking about it. And if the private sector is ready to step up and pay for it, that's great. It makes me worry then what the fees are going to be to do it, because the only way it works is if it's still affordable to take this train back and forth. And when you get there, because you're not going to have your car with you, you're going to have to find ways around up there. So I think a lot of people will be like, I could just drive and have my car.
There will also be stops along the way, at least one.
Oh, there are?
So it won't be 90
Station.
minutes.
Oh. Well, if it's only one stop, I'm okay
It's just one
with
stop.
it.
And, you can always get Uber or whatever. Or,
Yeah, when you get there.
so
but keep in mind
which you
the
might do if
cost.
you flew to Dallas, too.
Right.
Good, bad, or ugly, Jessica?
This is just the perfect opportunity for a callback, and I'm just going to bring up our Buc-ee's car again. And what this means is that our Buc-ee's car may never happen, and that's very sad.
She wants a car
I
on
do.
this rail line that is
Just
basically
Buc-ee's.
a Buc-ee's.
Because the idea was
I
that
support this idea.
right, exactly, because the idea is that if you are not on your road trip, you miss the whole Buc-ee's experience. So my suggestion when we talked about this the first time is, you start having sponsors for different cars. You have a Buc-ee's car, you have a this car, you have a that car, so you have lots of opportunities.
Starbucks, a Walgreens,
Exactly.
The whole experience.
So there's, in addition to the investors from Fort Worth, there's definitely some possibilities of making money there. So, they're welcome to take my idea. It's okay.
I say Texas Central and Kleinhens Capital Partners, Inc. of Fort Worth. Reach out to
There
Jessica.
we go.
She's available to be hired.
Honestly, this started off as kind of a joke, and I'm like, you know what? It's really not that bad of an idea.
Oh my God!
Because
the conductor could be a little Buc-ee's guy,
Right?
in the little Buc-ee's outfit. There.
Yes, all mascots all the time.
I love it.
How would we get them up the aisles, though?
You have to make
if they're
wider
like,
aisles. for
Yeah.
Buc-ee's.
I mean, you're a big picture person. Don't
Right?
worry about the details.
This is the way that my brain works.
let
You
Klein
do
so and
something
so and so and so figure it out.
exactly. You do something for comedy, and then you're like, wait a minute, that's actually not terrible.
Finally, panel, a Michigan bookstore moved down the street this week, one book at a time, with the help of a book brigade of more than 300 people. They formed a chain stretching from the old location to the new one and passed each book in alphabetical order, mind you, to relocate Serendipity Books in Chelsea. Owner Michelle Tuplin put out a call for volunteers to help her move to a larger space just 350 feet away. The human chain between the two buildings moved 9,100 books and other inventory in less than 2 hours. Tuplin told NBC News people really consider independent bookstores theirs. It's really part of the community, and they have ownership. A human chain moves a bookstore down the street, a single book at a time. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Ernie.
It is fabulously good because, like in our very first story about Blue Origin, it brought attention to the fact of these bookstores. Yes, they probably could have moved it differently. Maybe they didn't have the money to move it differently. But the whole concept of moving a bookstore one book at a time, what a great feel-good story, and what a wonderful way to support independent booksellers that are still out there in this world, and we need to support them.
Coincidentally, Katy Perry was in this chain, and she kissed every book as it went by.
Did she sing, though?
No.
She might have sung what? Who wrote the Book of Love?
Book of Love. There you go. Good, bad, or ugly, Jessica.
I agree with Ernie completely on this. Anything that can bring attention to local booksellers, I think, is absolutely amazing. And I think that it's kind of interesting that this comes at the time, too, that Barnes & Noble announces they're adding 60 more locations, So what this says to me is that, us nerds are winning, y'all. Those of us who love to read books, we got this. But I love the thought of the visual of one by one carrying a book from one bookstore to the other. Because, when you walk into a bookstore, you don't really have a clue of the number of books that are in there. But if you're seeing them passed one by one and you sit and you watch that for hours, you're like, oh my gosh, is it ever going to end? I hope not. So I absolutely love this idea. I think it was a great PR move on their part.
Good, bad, or ugly, Charles?
I'll make it unanimous. I mean, this is quite possibly the nerdiest thing I've ever heard of. And
love
it's
it.
just beautiful. And I really, as I think about it, I hope someone videoed the whole thing and
Yes.
uploaded it to YouTube.
It is
because
available.
It'll get millions of views as like some ASMR thing. I mean, can you, I mean,
that's
just
a good
think about
point.
it.
Yeah.
I mean,
How long is the video? Do we know?
Well, I don't know if it's the complete video of all 2 hours. It may just be a few minutes of it, but
I mean, you
There is
can
video.
edit it, speed
Loop
it up,
it.
whatever.
You won't know the
do time
difference.
lapse, whatever. The point being, people are going to want to watch this. It's beautiful all around.
Jessica Brown is co-director of Station Theater. Charles Kuffner writes the off-the-cuff political blog. Ernie Manous co-hosts Hello Houston weekdays from 11 to 1 here on News 88.7. Jessica, Charles, Ernie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.